Yamuna Tira Ranga Sari. Shipad Paramahamsa Vidragacharya Stotra Sakya Sri Simana His Divine Grace Srila Charanarvin Bhakti Raghava Swami Sri Prabhupada Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Kanabiti Founder Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinama Sankirtan Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Anta Gaur Hari Hari All glories to the Son of devotees, all glories to the Son of devotees, all glories to see Guru and to see Gauranga, all glories to see Prabhupada Ki. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Daksharamiritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadami Swakarantam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Svam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Kanishana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Sakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kamaramoste Dabdaka Salagorandi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishadanustuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Taruyasya Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasthayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, is the king of all Vedic literatures. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Mukham karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Morning Bhagavatam class. It is important, those who attend the Bhagavatam class, to actually attend the Bhagavatam class, which means that when we are chanting, not doing other things. If everyone does other things, there's no Bhagavatam class. We are continuing from Canto number 1, chapter 17, which is entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali. And let's see. I believe we did 3. And we are now at 4. Is that correct?
Second shloka, first 2, 17.
Sloka 7?
Verse 2, second verse.
Second verse?
Yeah. Vrisham, Vinal, Davalam, the bull was white.
Where is
Somebody raised.
huh?
Somebody raised. I have written yesterday.
Where is Halavin? So we did 2, is that correct?
Yes.
We did 2.
We will be doing 2. We'll be doing 2.
Huh?
We only did 1 yesterday.
We already did 1.
Yes.
What number?
Only one.
Only 1.
The first one.
Yeah, normally when we begin, the first one is number 1. Yeah, correct. Okay. Yes. So we are doing text number 2. Vrisham Mrinala Davalam Mehantam Iva Bibhyatam Vepamanam Padaikena Siddhantam
Siddhantam
śūdra
śūdra
Taditam
Taditam
Vrisham Vrinalam Dhavalam
Visham Rinadavalam
Mehantam Eva Bibhyatam
Nehantam Vipvitam
Vepamanam Padaikena
Vipamanam Padayakena
Siddhantam Shudra Taditam
Siddhantam Śūdra Taditam
Vrisham Mrinala Dhavalam
Visham Rinadavalam
Mehantam Eva Bibhyatam
Nehantam Vipvitam
Vepamanam Padaikena
Vipamanam Padayakena
Siddhantam Shudra Taditam
Siddhantam Śūdra Taditam
Vrisham Mrinala Dhavalam
Visham Rinadavalam
Mehantam Eva Bibhyatam
Nehantam Vipvitam
Vepamanam Padaikena
Vipamanam Padayakena
Siddhantam Shudra Taditam
Siddhantam Śūdra Taditam
Vrisham Minala Dhavalam Vihantam Eva Bibhyatam Vipamanam Padaikena Siddhantam Shudra Taditam
Visham Rinadavalam
Vrisham Minala Dhavalam
Mehantam Iva Vibhyatam
Mehantam Eva Bibhyatam
Vipamanam Padayakena
Vipamanam Padaikena
Siddhantam Śūdra Taditam
Siddhantam Shudra Taditam Visham Vinala Dhavalam Mehantam Eva Bibhyatam Vipamanam Padaikena Siddhantam Shudra Taditam Vrisham, the bull. Mrinala Dhavalam, as white as a white lotus. Mehantam, urinating. Eva, as if. Vibhyatam, being too afraid. Vepamanam, trembling. Pada ekena, standing on only one leg. Siddhantam, śūdra taditam, being beaten by a Shudra. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The bull was as white as a white lotus flower. He was terrified of the Shudra who was beating him, and he was so afraid that he was standing on one leg, trembling and urinating. Kind of repeat after me. The bull was as white as a white lotus flower. He was terrified of the Shudra who was beating him. And he was so afraid that he was standing on one leg, trembling and urinating. Purport. The next symptom of the age of Kali is that principles of religion, which are all spotlessly white, like the white lotus flower, will be attacked by the uncultured Śūdra population of the age. They may be descendants of Brahmana or Kshatriya forefathers, but in the age of Kali, for want of sufficient education and culture of Vedic wisdom, such a Shudra-like population will defy the principles of religion, and persons who are religiously endowed will be terrified by. They will declare themselves as adherents of no religious principles, and many isms and cults will spring up in Kali Yuga only to kill the spotless bull of religion. The state will be declared to be secular or without any particular principle of religion, and as a result, there will be total indifference to the principles of religion. The citizens will be free to act as they like, without respect to sadhu, shastra, and guru. The bull standing on one leg indicates that the principles of religion are gradually diminishing. Even the fragmental existence of religious principles will be embarrassed by so many obstacles, as if in the trembling condition of falling down at any time. Translation again. The bull was as white as a white lotus flower. He was terrified of the Shudra who was beating him. And he was so afraid that he was standing on one leg, trembling and urinating. So yesterday we read about the first sign in Kali Yuga of the first sign of disruption is that people who are unqualified will be taking positions of leadership. And here it mentions about how the various principles of religion, there are four basic, we call pillars of religion, which are unknown to most people. Four basic principles we call principles of Dharma. And they are directly connected with the very prominent sinful activities that are taking place all over the world. And these sinful activities, we recite them whenever we come to the point of taking diksha or initiation within the society. For most people, these activities are not considered sinful. They have a different understanding. Actually, most people don't even accept the word sinful. As mentioned here, people are simply acting on their whims, having less and less respect for religion. Just small example, few days ago, you might have read about it. They were having their 53rd Rath Yatra in Toronto. For 53 years, I attended one of those. They're very gorgeous, very elaborate, and I don't know, thousands of people attend. And in the middle of the Rath Yatra, some unscrupulous persons threw eggs at the devotees and at the festival, which is very offensive, of course. And there was all kinds of protests, both locally and from other, including India actually, different protests to the government in Canada for, you know, in other words, people cannot even respect that people practice, you know, generally whenever there are public festivals, they are sanctioned and authorized by the government, and even most of our festivals, we have police escort as well, just for keeping proper order, etc., like that. So this is referred to here, of course, how these are ever increasing symptoms of Kali Yuga. People are totally disregarding even, you say, moral principles. Even we see amongst teachers, I remember some years back, people very often in educational institutions will invite devotees to give a presentation. They often, actually sometimes they will set up, they will bring people from different denominations and sometimes with malintention. This particular time, even the teacher was, and this is probably not uncommon, what's it called? Hedonism. Means openly, when teachers are openly encouraging or allowing activities which actually are against the principles of Dharma, such as smoking, such as you know, intermingling between men and women. These things are have become in so many ways standard. People are not following basic principles or concepts of religion. And as we have read, and this is also being mentioned here again, throughout the world, we have what is called secular states, and that we were discussing the other day is also a main main issue, especially in a country like India, where India is known throughout history as being the land of Dharma. And when we are kicking out, when we want to completely do away with the principles of Dharma, then this opens the doors actually for all kinds of adharmic activities, nefarious activities, which is taking place all over the world. And it means that these four principles of Dharma, which are described in terms of qualities that one should develop. We are meant to develop specific qualities in the human form of life, which can only be developed also in the human form of life, beginning with quality of truthfulness, and compassion, and austerity, cleanliness. These are, for anyone who is following or who knows anything about Dharma, these are fundamental, essential, basic principles without which society cannot properly function, isn't it? Therefore, Vedic culture gives so much of importance to the need. There is that, tapasya brahmacharyena samena cha damena cha. Brahmachari life. When we are, this is the first of the 4 ashrams. So from the very beginning, tapasya means becoming regulated, means practicing austerity, human form of life. What did Lord Brahma do? On the atop the lotus stem, Lord Brahma found himself at the beginning of the creation, because when Brahma when Brahma's day ends, his day is very long, and his night is also very long. So he forgets. Sometimes we forget also. We get up right in the morning. Sometimes if we travel a lot, we forget, where am I now? Or even in ordinary life, we forget certain things. So Lord Brahma sleeps for a very long time, and so he forgets what am I supposed to do? Then he goes into meditation, isn't it? He hears 2 sound vibrations, ta and pa, ta pa, ta pa. So ta pa. It's like sometimes we forget a verse, and then we get the right one word, and then the whole thing follows. So Lord Brahma, he's the most intelligent personality in the whole world, in the whole creation, and so he performs tapasya, and therefore he shows by example. So tapasya is our acharyas explained, is meant to be the one of the main features in the for humanity, in the human form of life. Animals, they have no idea or concept of tapasya. They are simply completely following. They're simply conditioned by their senses. But not so in the human form of life. We are actually meant to become regulated in what we're doing. We're meant to control. One devotee was just asking me recently, his question was, if I'm still a Godasa, means servant of my senses, can someone who is a Godasa become Krishna conscious? That was his question. So what's the answer? Yes, no, or maybe? Huh?
He is to give up. He is to slowly practice giving up the
So we should not say immediately that all Godasas cannot become Krishna conscious because vast majority of conditioned souls, but the Jeev means Godasa. We are conditioned by the modes of material nature. But in the beginning level of spiritual life, in particular devotional service, what we call sadhana bhakti. So in sadhana bhakti, we're still Godas, but we're practicing Krishna consciousness. And the idea is that slowly, gradually, as we learn to become more and more regulated, then we will go from being Godasa to Goswami, yes. From servant of the senses to master of the senses. So a devotee, an advanced devotee, he is Goswami, even though he may be a householder. Means he is master of his senses. And it is only when one becomes fully master of one's senses that he can become fully Krishna conscious. And before that, we could say mixed. It's mixed or not steady Krishna consciousness. It is still, majority of devotees are practicing sadhana bhakti. And that's the idea, if one becomes regulated through the process of sadhana bhakti, there's three ways or three, three types of liberated personalities are described. Those who are always eternally liberated, and they are called Nityamukta, Nityamukta. And then those who, by practicing sadhana, then they become sadhana siddha. And then there's a third category which many people might like to take up, but that is called kripa siddha. Yeah, kripa siddha. By some special mercy, just like sometimes a person might be awarded, what do they call it? Honorary PhD or honorary whatever it may be, without having actually gone and sitting in the classroom or writing a thesis or whatever. So that is sometimes awarded, that is sometimes possible, but it is rare. The vast majority of living entities who come in the material world, they are highly recommended to follow sadhana bhakti, means to become regulated. But the mentality in modern day society, because of lack of understanding or rejection, out and out rejection, I mean, it's openly promoted, isn't it? In practically all the legislations in the world, and that started, of course, we were discussing the other day. That was one of the features of the French Revolution, to actually reject the religious religion as such, and to separate. Now we live in a society where there is a separation of the state and the church, and that is not the proper understanding. That is not the Vedic understanding. Vedic understanding is that actually those who are in leadership position should be enacting legislation based on principles of Dharma. When we neglect and reject, especially the principles of Dharma, when we are not knowing, not understanding, not accepting these principles of Dharma, then it becomes what they call a free-for-all. So they have this philosophy in the Western world that, whatever is in keeping with mutual consent, it's okay. You're okay, I'm okay. So many kinds of expressions and misunderstandings, wrong understandings, which is opening the doors, of course, to all kinds of adharmic and very, very sinful activities, which are, of course, extremely destructive. And especially when that is allowed, which is become practically the standard all over the world, when this is allowed to happen amongst our younger generation, then what hope is there for the future generations? Young people are meant to become ideal in so many ways, so that they can become proper examples and proper leaders in the next generation. So these are being described, of course, especially in these chapters. These symptoms were beginning to be manifest at the very beginning of Kali Yuga. This is how we are. This is described how Kali Yuga entered actually as soon as Krishna left the planet. Yeah. Which means we should understand that when we abandon the principles of Dharma, then the agents of Kali, which are in the form of these four sinful activities, become more and more prominent. And this makes for a very disturbing and uncomfortable situation for those who are believing in Dharma, those who are wanting to practice Dharma. And and in this way, it becomes very challenging, but that is that is what devotees are, beginning from the Bhagavad Gita, that actually the Lord either himself directly or through him, different incarnations or different personalities, one of the primary purposes of his advent or descent in the material world is to reestablish these principles of Dharma, without which society, individuals and society actually cannot be cannot be happy, and without which, ultimately, which is now happening more and more, we will not even be able to meet our basic necessities of life, in terms of food, for example, or in terms of the natural resource of nature, like fresh air, fresh water. Even those basic natural resources will become Mother Bhumi, which is what is taking place when we exploit Mother Nature. Just like when we are not dealing with one another properly, people tend to withdraw, isn't it? You kind of, if somebody is not nice to you, then you're not inclined to associate with that person. If somebody abuses you in whatever way, verbally or mentally, whatever, then we are reluctant to associate. So Mother Nature is being very badly abused, and therefore she is withdrawing what otherwise she can provide in great abundance. So this is being referred to here. Yeah. Yes.
Sometimes in our efforts to preach or serve, we face internal doubts or feel spiritually very
Sometimes in our temple,
efforts to preach or serve,
in our efforts
we
to
face internal doubts or feel spiritually dry. Despite external engagement, how can we distinguish between the temporary phases of the mind and the deeper issues in our spiritual practice? And how should we respond in such situations?
This is your question or somebody's question?
This is my question. I write it so I should not forget.
You wrote it down to get it right. So the question is that sometimes we are practicing externally, but internally we are not maybe properly fixed or properly enthused or inspired in, we seem to be doing things mechanically, kind of. Yes, that is most common. It's not at all uncommon. And therefore, when one begins to notice that it is like that, then one should take remedies for changing that situation, which is not, of course, a healthy situation. And we have the various guidelines or instructions which are given in our Shastra. I mean, we have to look at why is it that it is like that. This question comes up a lot, actually, and I often recommend to devotees to hear directly classes given by Srila Prabhupada. At least for myself, I find them very, very inspiring, and I'm sure not only for myself as well. So Prabhupada was, especially in so many of his presentations or classes, because he's speaking from the topmost level of realization. And Prabhupada obviously had a mission. He was initially alone in introducing that mission in the Western world. So he was fully, completely absorbed in that. And definitely, if those do not become part, do not integrate ourselves, identify ourselves, and become more and more implicated or connected with that mission of our founder Acharya, the mission of our Acharyas, which is the mission of Lord Chaitanya, which is Krishna's mission, because that is the main, goal and purpose of life is to properly utilize this human form of life and assist the Lord and his different agents, representatives, in correcting the totally adharmic situation which is being described in the Shastra. And it's challenging because in Kali Yuga, as described here, I mean, the whole atmosphere is so polluted. It's extremely polluted. And and even amongst devotees, if we are not cautious, that is an important instruction given in the Nectar of Instruction by Srila Rupa Goswami. We should be selective in our association even amongst devotees, because there are devotees who are at different levels of understanding, different levels of consciousness, and there are devotees who are ill-motivated, isn't it? And even more than that, I mean, there are people in the guise of devotees who are mischievous, not externally, but who have mischievous or malintentions. And they're described by some of our acharyas. I believe Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, possibly, I think all of our more recent acharyas, they mention about, agents of Kali. There are people dressed as devotees who are also agents of Kali. So we need to be cautious in our association. That's why Lord Chaitanya, one of the foremost instructions he gives, asatsanga tyaga e vaishnavachar. We should be able to detect those who are showing signs of, not being in line with the principles of Dharma, those who are in the category of asat, and we should seek out rather those who are more fixed in their goal and their activities and their practice of Krishna consciousness, we can, if we are a little observant, we can see the symptoms are there. So therefore, Prabhupada would explain how the atmosphere being so horrible in Kali Yuga at this particular development, that if we do not sufficiently protect ourselves, that's why the chanting the holy name is an important, one of the most important ways to protect our creeper of devotional service. So we need to take, when we notice, it's just like when, when we notice something not right with our body, I don't know, we start having a pain on our hand or whatever, then we try to analyze, well, what's happening. If we cannot ourselves, and most of the time, because we're not doctors or physicians, then we go and see a physician, somebody. So like this, we should be taking different measures which can help as soon as possible. When we notice these things, we should take measures to try and correct. Otherwise, it is, we could say, the more we allow, these negative influences to be there, then it becomes more difficult actually to reinstate ourselves as we are meant to be in devotional practice. Yeah. Yes.
May I add something?
Yes.
So my understanding is that when Ado Shraddha, we speak Ado Shraddha, that means we have very firm faith in scriptures. So we remember the scriptures, at least the basic scriptures. And when we get the next level, Tata Sadhu Sangha, that Sadhu Sangha means at least one very highly elevated devotee becomes, or Guru Maharaj becomes my master. I become his servant. So that identity should be very fixed. That identity, every morning we wake up, if we forget it, come to Mangalarati, and when we sing, we revive or servant mood, servant consciousness. And that servant consciousness we connect us to the Guru Maharaj, who is very enthusiastically serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, we are disconnected from our Guru Maharaj, and then we have to keep our own enthusiasm, which is not so easy. But when we connect to Guru Maharaj enthusiasm, and we are meditating on Guru Maharaj as my master every moment, not just theoretically. No, I'm serving my master taking prasadam. I'm serving master doing this service. That's important, that's personal. Many times we join to the institute, and the institute doesn't give you the same personal relationship. It's important to be part of the institute, but through the Guru, through the personal master, and that keeps the mood of continuously like I am not worth servant, I'm not a good servant, but at least I'm enthusiastically trying to serve the merciful Guru. I think that identity helps a lot. Of course, many things which you mentioned, it's perfect, like association, but association with those devotees who have this connection, strong connection with Shastra and Guru. And that will keep the consciousness pure and enthusiastic. I think that's my understanding.
Yes.
So, I agree with what Prabhuji says, and Maharaj explained very nicely as well. Just to elaborate on that point, what Prabhuji mentioned about institution, it reminds me of what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote, where the idea of an organized religion in an intelligible form marks the close of a living spiritual movement. because there's a tendency of like